That, I would like to say that light and positivity and motivation is seen as a harbinger of good. To start us off on an auspicious note, we will now have the lamp lighting ceremony.
We would now request Cerebrum Core team members to honor Ms. Sutapa Basu, Dr. Harshali Singh, and Mr. Ankit Jha.
फोटोग्राफर आने नहीं देते।
And to do the honors, I all the esteemed gathering to come and join for the lamp lighting ceremony.
वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा सर्वकार्ये
There is no darkness so dense, so menacing, or so difficult that it cannot be overcome by light.
Now we can start, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. May Ma Saraswati bless us all. Thank you. Please take a seat. Everyone, please give them a huge round of applause.
You people can also join the quiz. We'll just start a minute or two. Is it difficult? Difficult it is to student these are very class classes, graduate, postgraduate, research. ये स्क्रीन की चलेगा क्या?
Hello.
ये चलेगा? कोड देखने के
Yes.
कोड डाल
So, hi guys. A very good morning to you all. I hope you have been enjoying Bennett so far. Welcome to Aalekh 2K23. My name is Yashovardhan Sharma. I am the quiz co-head from Cerebrum Club. And we are here. Hello. Yes. So we are here in presence of our great authors today, and I hope you share the love for books as we do.
Our guest is also joining. You people also can join.
हाँ Cerebrum Club तुम भी join करो 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 जिसके पास है वो
कोड क्या है कोड जमीन कोड क्या है
5-6. Yashowardhan, announce it from the mic. Everyone, please turn on your mobile devices and log in onto www.menti.com and use the following code 5601 2669.
5601 2669.
5601
5601 2669. That's the code for the quiz.
इधर हो गया सबका?
Okay, this is the final call. The participants will only get 10 seconds to answer the questions. There are in total 25 questions in the quiz. The quiz is very easy, but the thing is, you have to be the fastest one to answer. After you enter the login code, the 5601 2669 code, you have to use your respectable names in order to determine the winner of the quiz. We will be seeing your names and the leaderboard score will be
Your full name.
So all of you just enter your correct names, right? That would be easy for you to win prizes.
In case name is not there, then you will not get a prize.
Yes. So for winning prize, it is a thing that you need to you need to enter your correct name, full name.
Top three people will get a surprise gift.
Yeah. So
First, second,
we'll have 3 winners, first, second, and third. So if my name is Kushagra Joshi, so enter the full name. Fine.
not your name.
Don't enter my name.
Please guys enter your full name. Full names please.
Okay? Are you ready? Catch you again. तुमको दोबारा
Okay, can we see a show of hands who all have logged in? Please raise your hands. Anybody left? Okay. Those who are left, please raise your hands now. I see someone there. Are you left, sir?
Swam help.
जो बच्चे लोग नहीं कर पा रहे हैं वो मदद कीजिए.
We'll be starting in a few seconds.
Okay? Are you ready? Good.
Is anyone still facing any issues regarding the login?
Guys.
हेलो हाँ गाइस, जिन लोगों को प्रॉब्लम हो रही है, जिन लोगों का नाम जो है वो ओरिजिनल नाम से नहीं आ रहा है, उन लोगों के नाम हम लोग अभी नोट कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, आप अपना नाम बता देना एक्चुअल नेम. ठीक है, क्योंकि बहुत से लोगों का वो ऑर्डर सेव हो चुका है जिन लोगों ने पहले ट्राई में खेला होगा.
Okay, then we can start. किसका फोन था? Sir, एक मिनट. Just a second. Okay?
Sir.
Ma'am is logging in.
हो गया ना लॉगिन? हाँ ठीक है, वेट कर.
Just wait.
Hello. Okay, everyone, so I'll repeat the rules of the quiz again. There are in total 25 questions for the quiz. You will be given 10 seconds each to answer the question. A photo will be appearing there, and 3 or 4 possible answers will be given to you. You have to choose the correct answer according to you. And in the end, or after every question, a leaderboard will appear, and those who have been answering the fastest and the correct will see their names on their board.
All the best, guys.
May the fastest quizzer win. So let's begin with the quiz.
Let's start.
First question.
Okay. The first question.
The question has been appearing on your screens. Please answer them.
on your mobile screen.
You have 5 seconds left now. 5, 4. Time's up. Oh, great. So we have 69 correct people who have been answering the questions. We move on to the next question. Please clap up every answer you give. It's already a bit wrong. The next question. Guys, there are some technical difficulties. Please wait for a moment.
Very good. Next question, please.
थैंक यू फॉर योर पार्टिसिपेशन आ रही है सबके फोन में वही आ रहा है
Guys, please wait for a moment. There has been some technical issues regarding the quiz.
Just wait, guys.
Please stay calm. We'll be back soon.
हियर हिम
Hello. So consider this as a mock quiz, okay? Just give us 2 more minutes. Fine.
कुछ बहुत से लोगों का मतलब वो वोटिंग टाइम जो था ना वो पहले से आउट हो गया है.
So we had some issues in this quiz. So considering it as mock, we'll restart the quiz. Okay?
Okay, let's start.
Okay, we are back. So, yeah, now you know how it works. Okay, the first question is here again. You have 8 seconds left. 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up.
Okay. I guess a lot of them are network.
Are you guys still having any issues?
You can
Rudra. Next question. We move on to the next question. The question is, Rahul Gandhi is the leader of which political party? And your options are
no cheating. No cheating.
74 people wow
Great going, guys. So let's see if the leaderboard has changed. Oh no, still Rudra is on top. Nice.
no
Oh, it's Yashi.
That's it. Wow.
And move on to the next question. Okay. I guess 18 or 21 people are not cricket fans at all. So let's see. Other question on your screens, guys. Identify this Bollywood actor. Please stay calm, please.
Please maintain.
Okay, nice. Guys, please don't discuss amongst yourselves.
Vibha Kaushik fastest Vibha Kaushik
Vibha Kaushik is the fastest and still Srishti is on top. Nice. Next question. Here we go. Identify this popular figure. Stay calm, guys. I know you all know it.
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Time's up. See, this is the tricky question, my guys. You need to be alert. This is the tricky part.
You missed an O, Aalekh. That O came in the end. Top 4 didn't score. Region.
Ruben is the fastest, but Asta has more points on the board. Let's move on to the next question. This is a relatively easy question, but let's test your GK here. Who won the 2022 FIFA World Cup?
That will be 65. Wow.
65 people are correct. Nice.
तो इतना भी फुटबॉल नहीं देखा
Prapti Bharadwaj.
Prapti
Wow.
Bharadwaj.
Prapti Bharadwaj.
Next question. Question number 7. Here we go, guys.
Which city is going to the inside?
Okay, 4 seconds, 3 seconds. 2, 1. Time's up. Jaipur.
Wow,
Nice. Thank God you all got it correct. I'm from Jaipur. I'm happy. Prapti Bharadwaj again. Nice. Question number 8. Okay.
Wow.
He has been in the news very recently.
बेटा अगर ये नहीं पता पाए ना जीके टीचर बहुत मारेगा
Wow. 70%.
Let's see if there is any change on the leaderboard.
Srishti Sharma
Oh,
fastest.
Oh, Srishti Sharma. Faster.
Rohit has the most scores, but Srishti has answered this the fastest. Congrats, guys. Question 9, here we go. Okay, this is a interesting question. Let's see if you have really studied in 8th or 9th GK. So, people who love sports must know this. Again, please pay attention to the details. Srijan is the fastest. Rohit is on top. Question 10. Okay, 15 questions left. Let's see if you can change the board.
Who is going to decide one of it?
Oh, no. Class में मैं
Time's up.
75.
75 people are out. Rudra is the fastest, Srijan is on the highest. Next question. Who was the first human to reach space?
Oh, no need. Let them be.
Space, not the moon. That is the tricky part. Still 18 people got it correct. Congrats, guys.
Very nice. Okay, so the scores are totally opposite now. Vibha. Yeah. Next question.
Okay, sir.
Asta Singh is the fastest. Let's have a round of applause, please. Guys, you're doing very well. 13 questions in. So this is the 13th question. People from humanities background must know this question or the answer to this question. Let's see. Yeah. Bhattacharya is the fastest. Okay, we see a new name on the board finally. Nice. Question 14. Identify the newspaper. हमने नहीं बोलना था. सबके सामने नहीं बोलना था. Ishan Kapoor is the fastest. That's an order. Next question.
Which day is celebrated as International Labour Day?
You have 5 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. A majority got it correct. Guys, there is a request from my side. Please don't speak the answers, to be honest. क्योंकि फिर मजा ही नहीं आएगा यार. तुम लोग आंसर बोल रहे हो और उसको पता ही चल जाएगा. At least have decency.
शांतनु आप खड़ी होकर बोले, वो लोग सोच रहे कहाँ से आवाज आ रही है. आकाशवाणी कोई है.
हाँ, इसमें गौर करिए लेकिन हाँ. Shivam Maurya is the fastest. Let's have another round. Well, guys, please show your hands also if I announce your name. We can at least know who it is. That's Shivam. Next question.
What is the name?
Time's up. Wow. So we need to do that. Shivam Maurya is again the fastest player. Next question. Identify this beverage. Five, four, three, two, one. Okay, so you got it correct. Nice. You all love coffee, don't you? Okay, we see a new name finally. Ankit is the fastest player. Ankit. Oh, Ankit, sorry.
No apologies. Question number 18. Identify the playback singer. Time's up, guys.
Ankit
It's a
sir.
physical
Ankit sir is- Next question, question 19. What is the name of this automotive brand? Time's up. 19 people got it wrong. That's surprising.
I thought Volkswagen.
सीजन का गलत हुआ
Ankit sir.
Ankit sir. Guys, be alert. Ankit sir is catching up. He'll take the prize from you. Okay, last 5 questions. Question 20. Who wrote the national anthem of the country?
Oh, don't read. Don't read.
Srijan is the fastest and the player with the highest points. Where is Srijan?
Very good.
Question 21.
तुम लोगों ने बॉम्बे सुना है ना? देखा?
Next question. Question 22. Three, two, one. Easy. Bhumi Rai. Bhumi. Rai. Let's have a round of applause for Bhumi, guys. Question number 23. We have only 2 more questions left.
मैं ये नहीं डाला
ये कौन कौन गलत देगा
सर इस बार गलत वाले डिस्प्ले कर रहा हूँ
भूमि ने भी गलत किया। अभी ने भी गलत किया।
Abhishek Tiwari is the fastest. Abhishek. Okay, so this is the second last question. Question 24.
लास्ट पे चला जाएगा।
Ankit sir is the fastest. And the last question. This is the last question. This is your time. If you can topple the scoreboard. Let's see.
Congratulations, guys.
Second, Ishan
Kapoor, can we have Ishan here? Vibha,
Wow, very good.
हाँ वैसे तो शुचि मैम इज सेकंड इवन सुतापा मैम इज ऑन द लीडर बोर्ड गाइस Sir has been the fastest for many questions also.
So now we have the three winners from the school. Ishan is second. Ishan? You're Ishan. Second. Shivam Maurya. Shivam Maurya.
Shivam.
Shivam Maurya. I need Shivam Maurya. Next one. Students.
Rashida.
Rashida. Let's go.
Abhishek Tiwari. Oh, sorry, sir.
Bhumi Rai.
Bhumi.
आ जाओ. Who is Bhumi?
Okay. So we have our final winners.
So let's clap.
So we have Srijan, Bhumi and Vibha as our winners.
First, second, third winners. And there is surprise something here. Now we can
ये मैं नहीं मालूम है इसका और मैं से देना
I'm checking what is this. ये तो नहीं दे रहा हूँ बच्चा फोटो लेके आई घूमी रहा है one photograph, group photograph with the guest, and then we have to photograph the teacher.
Thank you guys. This was my time on the podium. My name is Yashwardhan Sharma again. Thank you for being a lovely audience. Please clap for yourself also. I'm handing it over to the Sabi.
So, hello everyone. Hello everyone, I'm Kushagra Joshi. I'm the secretary of Cerebrum Club at Bennett University. It's our official literary and debating society. I hope you know we are gathered here for this event, and it's being organized by Learning Resource Center Bennett University and Cerebrum Club at Bennett University. So give a huge round of applause for all of you for coming down here. Thank you so much for coming here with us today. So we'll start with our first session. We have our guests here. So I would want first to introduce all of them to you. And it's been great honor to have all of you here, ma'am and sir. We have with us Mr. Ankit Jam, Chief Learning Officer, Grant Thornton Bharat Limited, Bharat LLP. Mr. Ankit Jam is a senior leader and an excellent author working with one of the world's largest consulting organizations, Grant Thornton Bharat LLP. Through his seminars and methodology, he has helped thousands of individuals gain a deeper understanding of themselves. He has more than 14 years of expertise in performance consulting, learning and development, and coaching. In addition, he is well known for producing 3 bestsellers in a span of 3 years. Mr. Jam embraces a thorough approach to human behavior and believes in looking at life from a holistic point of view. Give a huge round of applause to Ankit sir. We have with us Madam Sutapa Basu, author, poet, educationist, winner of TOI Author Awards and Write India. Give a huge round of applause to her. Hailing from the land of Bengal tiger, Miss Sutapa Basu is a tigress herself, warm-hearted yet fearsome and courageous in the face of danger. A visionary who took the world by storm through her works such as Dangle, Padmavati and Genghis Khan. With awards such as Best Fiction Award by Author Awards 2020 and the first prize of Times of India Write India campaign 2016 to her name, she has also worked with publishing houses such as Oxford University Press, Encyclopedia Britannica and Readomania. An author, poet and educationist, Ms. Sutapa is the director publisher at UPS Learning, currently residing in Delhi. She is a hardcore believer of learning from wealth of knowledge left behind by the older generation. Give a huge round of applause to ma'am. We have with us Dr. Harshali Singh, author, poet, painter and winner of Write India. Give a huge round of applause to Madam Harshali Singh. Delhi-based member of District Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, Dr. Harshali Singh is a writer and academician, an occupational therapist, a book lover, and fancies the art universe. She has contributed to several anthologies and has also touched upon literary genres ranging from poetry to fiction. Her writings such as A Window of Her Dreams and the recently launched The Anatomy of Choice are family to the Haveli series. Her poems, surcharged with women empowerment, are part of the anthology called She the Shakti. She has won the prestigious Write India Season 2, a short story contest organized by the Times of India Group. She has also presided over crucial discussions with eminent personalities in the fields of world peace, meditation, infertility, etc. Her mantra for life, we are what we choose to be. Give a huge round of applause to Madam Harshali Singh. I would now request Ankit sir to please take us into his world. So, believe me, this would be a very good session for all of you.
Is it working? No. On kar.
Check.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Last row? There. Visible?
sometimes visibility in my case can be an issue. Are all of you from 12th class? No, sir. 11th, 10th?
Sir, 9.
9th?
Yes, sir.
Wow. I had a very terrible 9th class. I should share the story of my maths score with you. All of you from 9th? 9th and 11th. And people who are from 11th, are they science, commerce, arts? Mixed. How many science? Sabko pranam. I have high regard and high scare and high fear of science. And how many commerce? दो, बाकी सब सीए कर रहे हैं. That's it. And arts? Okay, fantastic. All right. I was thinking what to talk to you guys about, and then this quiz happened. This, honestly, you can check my report cards. This is the first time in the last 40 years of my existence मैं किसी चीज में 10th आया. And that's very good for me. So when the first 4 questions came, I said, "ये मेरे को आती." This is the first time in my life so many questions I had an answer to. So when the Mentimeter said that my ranking was 10th, you say, "ये क्या हो रहा है?" And then in one go it was 4th. And I swear I wanted to take a screenshot, take it home. So आज मैं 4th आया life में पहली बार. And that's the story I'm going to share with you. All my school life, all my graduation, all my postgrad, I have 2 master's degrees. But you put together all of it, average it, compare it, I've never crossed 60. Never. I was not good with education. Absolutely not. So if you've scored excellent marks, there is a very low chance कि हमारी दोस्ती हो जाए. I will try hard. So if somebody says that, I've scored more than 85% all through my life, मेरे को तो लोग ही समझ में नहीं. How many people have scored 90% ever in life? Wow, very good. I have never seen 90% ever in my report card, all through my life. The only scare I have is one day I'll stand on the weighing machine and the weighing machine will show me a 90. वो नहीं देखना चाहता. It's already showing 80, which is much above the average of all the scores I've had ever in life. So kids, here is what I'm going to share with you. 15, 20, 25 minutes I'm going to talk about what I often have started to tell people. And it's almost like a hashtag. I call it hashtag weak is the new strong. I have a nephew who's about 16 years old. He's doing his science and he's my guinea pig. For everything new psychologically, I need to experiment. I go to him and experiment and this works. So why is the weak new strong? Hashtag weak is the new strong. Because at some point of time you'll realize that it's all right if you can't crack it every time. It needs to be all right. It better be all right. It's great if you get 90. But let me also give you a guarantee that throughout life you won't be able to hit it. So here is my submission to you. Enjoy the marks, but expand your experiences. You don't want the 90% to be becoming a burden for the next 5, 10, 15 years. Give the exams, participate in all competitive exams, and you must. But when you hit your 10th and you hit your 11th and you hit your 12th, always keep checking that am I becoming slave of report cards? And it's not a great space to be. Slavery of report cards, which basically means that 90 आया तो खुशी, 89 भी आया तो चेहरा उतर गया. You can't be so vulnerable because a report card tells you that you have 90. Am I propagating not studying? No. Am I propagating don't put an effort? No. But the earlier you understand that a 2-digit number does not define you, the better it is. How many people in this room have scored 60? 65, 70? Okay. Ask us. Ask us. A large part of lives, we've been convincing ourselves that it's all right. It's all right if I don't get 90 because I'll figure something out. A large part of our lives, we've been looking at people like, tum karte kya ho? Khate kya ho? What are you made of? And we've been telling ourselves that it's all right. Don't let the numbers define you. And that's also a kind of life we are living. So throughout my life, I didn't score well. I wasn't the most brightest, wasn't the most sharpest. In fact, to talk about the 9th class, 9th was the most horrible period of my life. In 9th, I realized that I had a mild learning disability. And then one fine day, I gave my maths exam, and the maths exam results came out, and the teacher calls me, so Ankit Jham, roll number 3. You know, your parents should never name you with A. Because if they name you with A, your roll number is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're the first one to be insulted. And first and second roll numbers were toppers. So the third one is Ankit Jham, and he's invited. And I'm the first one officially in the grand scheme of things to be told that ye maths nahi kar sakte. You know, having a roll number 20, 25, 30, 45, we had a 50 people class. I thought that mom should have named me with Z, like Zubair, Zahir. Aakhir mein baitha hota, sab ki besti khatam ho chuki. Teachers would have exhausted their quota of insult. And then I would walk in, haan DJ, isi DJ, but that didn't happen in my life. I was roll number 3. So that unfortunate day, you know, by the way, when I wrote the maths exam, I thought I was brilliant. Because मैं अपनी तरफ से पूरा करके आया था. So my dad asked me, तूने पूरा किया? हाँ. My parents always ask me, पूरा exam किया? हाँ. पूरे time बैठा? हाँ. All of that I said yes. So paper comes. He said, roll number 3, Ankit Jham. I went to Ramjas School, Aalekh. And then I saw a 9 on the paper while walking. Teacher का table center में लगा है. मैं धीरे धीरे चल के जा रहा हूँ. मेरी नजर पेपर पे पड़ती है और मुझे 9 दिखता है. I swear I was kicked. You know that sense of accomplishment? So dad, अब तो bike ले ही देंगे. I will show off. 9. I take 3 steps more and I realize it was only 9. Only 9? Out of 100? And I sat for 3 hours. पूरा पेपर किया. Like second digit भी नहीं पहुंचा. Only 9. तो second term में मैंने बहुत पढ़ा. And I studied, like really studied. The time comes again. Roll number 3, Ankit Jham. First 2 were toppers. This time, I didn't have the courage to take my eyes anywhere. So मैं नीचे देख के चलता. So slowly walked. Ma'am के पास गया and then she said, Ankit, look at the paper. Guess how much? Who said 12? Oh, yaar. Yeah. I opened my eyes and I said 12. Yeah, if that's a accomplishment. Yeah, it took some time to calculate how much percentage increase is in my progress. 9, 3, 30% increase. That's not bad. But फिर तो fail है. So then I went back and my dad asked me, इतनी पढ़ाई करी, and I remember board mass or something. In board mass in 9th? No, board mass is not in 9th. So A plus B whole. So A plus B whole square is equal to A square plus B square plus 2AB. Okay, सिर्फ यही याद. So then I walked back and my dad looked at the paper and said, 12? पहले 9 अब 12? सही बात है. So that day, it was horrible. That was my experience with 9th class. Okay. 10th it came back again. 11th it came back again. In 11th my parents were called to the school. And they said, आप ले जाइए कहीं और. My dad said, आप ही रख लीजिए. Said कोई काम दे देना cleaner. No, this really happened. So I struggled. And when I graduated from past school, I'm telling you, no one thought I would do something in life. No one. My dad was ready to open me a chai shop or something which required less intellectual effort. I got into the most worst college of Delhi University, due respects to everything. But first year of my college, and my result comes out, and I call up my mom and I say that, Mom, result aa gaya. She was busy. She said, pass ho gaya. So ये क्या बात है? So ये expectation से नहीं मैंने top किया है. हाँ, यही सन्नाटा था वहाँ. He said, that's not possible. So to pass ho gaya, just say the truth and just go back. I said, I've topped. And then she flew down from wherever she was and she came to the college and said, oh God. वो moment था उनके आँख में खुशी के आंसू भी नहीं आए. When disbelief is greater than happiness, the facial expressions are equal to abba dabba chamma. Parents don't know what happened. That's how the journey started. Hence, at a very early age, I learned #weak is the new strong. The only thing I did well, and I knew that I was truthful to myself. I knew that I won't be able to make a living out of chartered accountancy. My dad threw me into chartered accountancy. I pursued it. I cleared some exams, but after that, I said, Dad, I can't do chartered accountancy. So I opted out of it. For 6 months, he didn't speak to me. It's a true story. Imagine living in the same house. You know that the only person who's going to fund you and finance you for the rest of your life is not talking to you. So, jayadad bhi gayi. But it falls right. It falls right. You can take wrong decisions. It's all right. It's all right to be confused. It's all right if the relatives ask you, "Beta, aapko science leni hai, commerce leni hai." It's all right to look at their face and say, "I don't know. I'll figure it out." It's all right. It's all right in one term you get messed up. It's all right if you make friends who don't turn up your favor. It's all right if the next person sitting next to you sometimes scores more. I'm telling you, it's all right. When the larger scheme of things, I'm a 40. I hold a record of writing 10 books in 3 years. I became a chief learning officer at the youngest of my age group in my school, in my college. And when I look back, it's all right. But it doesn't mean you don't take the path of effort. It doesn't mean you don't walk the path of hard work. It doesn't mean that you're not sincere to the craft. What it means is, at every point of the time, you don't self-limit yourself with marks. You don't self-limit yourself with exceeding ambitions, and don't create zone of failures. When I was young, and it's still true, I couldn't differentiate between M, N, P, Q, B, D. And then if you ask me, Ankit, that's your left hand, right hand, I get confused. If you give me an instruction manual to read, I can't. It's very difficult for me to operate with Excel sheets. So I realized that I was slow in certain things, but I was super duper fast in some other things. Sometimes you have just know that, what is my fast lane? And when you know your fast lane, you start working there. Sometimes your professions won't come from the fast lane. So you have to plant that fast lane outside your profession so that it helps you. Some of you would go and do IIT JEE, advanced and NAET. It's a fantastic thing to do. I tell people that it's just looked down upon because it gives you stress. Our problem is that we all want to get into it. Our problem is that we all need to fall in love with the process of working hard. And that part is the ugly message. Process of working hard is the ugly message. Giving up stuff is the tough part. Not falling for the trap of Instagram is the tough part. Focusing is the tough part. Prioritizing is the tough part. You know, I had a full-time job and people asked me that, how did you write 10 books in 3 years? My only question and my only answer to them was, you had to give up stuff. I write at 11:30 in the night till about 12:30 and 1:30. If you go through my LinkedIn account, you'll see posts at 1:30 in the night, 12:30 in the night, where I take a picture and I post it and I share it with everyone. Progress over perfection. One thing you all need to learn is discipline. One thing you all need to learn is get the focus back. You know, it's all right to deal with failures. One of my biggest failure, let me talk about that. In 2020, there was something called as 100 leaders under 40. In the entire, all over India, they selected 1,000 people, I was part of them. They shortlisted 100 people, I was part of them. The entire world around me was convinced that he'll be 40 under 40. And every year, like Forbes, they come out with a list of 40 under 40. That 40 people in India under the age of 40 who've done exceedingly well. The entire world around me, not even one person felt otherwise. But I couldn't do it. From that 100, I couldn't appear in 40. I was 100 under 40, but 40 under 40, I could crack it. But you know, it didn't affect me. Because I did one thing right. उससे 4 महीने पहले, I gave everything I had in my body to the process. Everything. I spoke to every possible mentor. I practiced my answers well. But on that day, wasn't my day. But you know, that doesn't come easily. Because every time you face rejection or a failure, you're confused. ये मेरी गलती है? ये मेरे साथ क्यों हो रहा है? ये मेरे साथ ही होना था? Why is it happening to me? All of that crap goes when you're true to the craft, when your process, thoroughness, and preparation was fantastic. And I told my wife at that point of time that I wanted to be 40 under 40, but I'm not. But you know what? I feel light. I can sleep well tonight. Why? Because it's a graceful failure. It was a fantastic fight. It was a beautiful battle. I gave every goddamn thing I had in my abilities. And then I didn't make it. So it's fine. It's all right. Obsession towards ranks and obsession towards designations, obsession towards numbers is a part of larger humanity. It's been built like that. Hence you go outside in the world and you see that the only way you get an approval of your identity is numerically. Performance ratings, the amount of money you make, the report cards you have, what rank do you have, how much do you score in what subject, all of that starts to give you a sense of accomplishment. Don't fall for the slavery. Appreciate it, acknowledge it, see it for what it is. But the moment it starts to define you, you have a problem at hand. You really have a problem. And you know how I learned it is by running marathons. And that's my last story to you. At some point of time, I was 85 kgs and I was 25, 26, and doctor said that इस तरीके से तो तू निकल लेगा. Because I was eating a lot. I was in the right state of mind. So at 25, you're 85. My dad was about 75. So one day my dad looks at me and we went to the doctor and he said that, देखो ये risk of heart attack पे. For 25, he's overweight, massively. He's 5'5", he's 85. The dad looked at me, he had tears in his eyes. He said, "देख, मेरे से पहले मत जाइए." You understand that? I also found it funny what he did. So he said that in the chronology of life, father has to leave before the son. I don't want you to bury in front of my eyes. It was a life-changing moment for me. I gave myself 3 years and I said, boss, I have to set this right. At the 28th year of my life, I did my first half marathon, which is 21 kilometers. It was horrible. I have a flat feet, I can't run. Doctor said, knee toot jayega, shin mein problem hoga, hip mein problem hoga. I said, just let it be. So one day I called up my friend, he said, ek kaam kar, tu mujhe ghar se 21 kilometer dur chhora. Let me just cover the distance. Ro ke, crawl karke, rest leke. Let me just cover the distance. So it took me 4 hours. I ran, I walked, slow walk. I did everything I could to cover that 21 kilometer distance. At the age of 30, I did my 21 kilometers Air to Delhi half marathon in 1 hour and 59 minutes. Which if you Google is excellent. So I made the mistake of falling for ranks and numbers. And then I didn't practice. I lost my training, I lost my touch, I started eating a lot, and the next race was supposed to happen 3 months down the line. It was December, it was cold. And from 159, that sense of pride, that sense of accomplishment, whoop, went down because my timing was 240. The only thing I didn't do was I wasn't maintaining a record. I wasn't maintaining my stamina. I wasn't having water. I wasn't taking care of my hydration. I wasn't doing my glutes. I wasn't doing my shin. I wasn't doing my lower back. And it affected me. I felt tired. 10 kilometers down the line, I felt, boss, mujhse nahi ho payega. There is no replacement for hard work. So I said, nothing to it. December, it's still recorded on my Facebook memory. Every day run. I ran for 20 regular days. And I brought my time from 1 hour 30, 10 kilometers to 55 minutes. And if you guys run, cutting a minute in a run, which basically means is equivalent to cut 5 kilos. And I didn't cut 5 kilos. I just trained myself. I went to Chandigarh for a run, Morni Hills. It was a 10 kilometer trek and I was 4th. Flat feet. 4th. Running taught me that your ranks, where you are, how much you score, is very transient. It's almost like a time relic. जैसे Marvel comics में होता है ना, that time, that moment, who you are, what happened to you, led to that rank. If you don't repeat the process, those many hours, that kind of a focus, that kind of a compromise, giving away what you have to give, not falling for the temptation, being there, being at the right place, the results don't come automatically. But our mind is so foolish that it looks at 90. If I would do 90 now, I can do 90 tomorrow. It doesn't happen because you did not replicate the process. So I tell people, fall in love with the process. When you get 90, you should not celebrate for too long. You should go back and say, क्यों हुआ? इसलिए हुआ क्योंकि मैंने सुना, समझा, मेहनत करी. I was at it. I had the energy. Maybe sometimes it's fear, and it works for you. In my case, it was. I didn't want to die at 30, especially when you are unmarried. You know, at least want to see marriage. Not that it's great, but you know, marriage jokes always works. No, it's great. I want to give you hope of life. You must get married. So, when you belong to sports, or you pursue a hobby, or you pursue passion, or you pursue anything which is not just tied to numbers, you learn the jewels and the gems of life. That's what running taught me. That's what theatre taught me. How many people love dramatics here? There? Okay. You know the most ugly part about performing on stage and the most beautiful part about performing on stage? The most beautiful is the stage performance. You get onto the stage, you act, you do well, and people love you. The most ugly part is usse pehle ke 3 mahine. Like some 10,000 rehearsals of the same script every now and then, do it the same way, then do the dress rehearsals, then do the light rehearsals, then repeat. अभी किसी को line याद है, किसी को line याद नहीं है, किसी को आप prompt कर रहे हो, and the emotion is not coming out. The director says नहीं आ रहा, समझ में नहीं आ रहा, हिल नहीं रहा है, जा नहीं रहा है, हो नहीं रहा है, समझ में नहीं आएगा, नहीं touch नहीं कर, क्या touch नहीं कर रहा है यार? And then you feel frustrated that उसको नहीं समझ में आता, जाने दे, तू जा. But the actor in you says, "No, one more, let me try. I can do it." I trained in method acting from the school of Konstantin Stanislavski, and we were taught that there is a process to method acting, and it didn't work for me. मुझे समझ में नहीं आया था क्या process follow करें. But then 8 rehearsals after comes a point, and everyone in the room looks at you. So ये कैसे किया? तो पता नहीं. तो हो गया. You know, if you go to YouTube, you should type Ankit Jham, Khudkushi Ka Ekdam Sadhu Hasan Manto. Comes a play. It's a 17 minutes play. In that play, I'm playing a person with depressive tendencies and suicidal ideation. And towards the end, I had to fall and I had to cry. It didn't happen. For many days, I kept practicing. It wasn't natural. But practice. Took 4 months, and one fine day, I fell and I cried. Active. And then I woke up. लोग ऐसे करते हैं. So ये कैसे किया? Sometimes you don't get the results immediately. Sometimes they won't come to you easily, but you still got to be at it, because weak is the new strong. You don't need to be strong the first day. You don't need to be strong when you were born. You don't need to be right, perfect. You don't need to be displaying strength in every situation, but you need to be falling weak, because weakness makes you. Don't fall for numbers. Don't fall for report card. Fall for the process. The time, the hard work, the focus, the energy, the discipline. Fall in love with that. Okay? Now I'm available for the next 5 minutes. If you want to ask me anything, I'll be happy to answer. And that's my story, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening so patiently. If anyone has a question, yes, please go ahead.
How did you decide to quit the CA part and then work with your life?
And do what I wanted to do. It was difficult, let me address. But sometimes, your body just tells you and your mind just tells you that it won't happen. My decision should have come earlier, but it didn't. And I'm glad it did. Because sometimes frustration has to reach a saturation point. And I got so frustrated that the frustration gave me courage to talk to my dad, and I said, "Dad, I can't do it." He said, "But your number is high." I said, "I don't feel that excitement. I don't want to be a chartered accountant." He said, "What do you want to be?" He said, "I want to go do psychology." And I said, "Sir, pakad ke baith gaye." And then comes the second battle of life. It's a risk, it's a gamble, and I'm telling you it's a risk. And I can't solve that risk for you. I can only solve it for myself. It could have gone down south also. And for the first 3 years, it did. But then it picked up. And then the bigger question rises that how thought through are you when you say risky stuff? Can you stand by your own self? And if you can't, then you will keep in circles. कुछ और करोगे, फिर घर वाले कुछ बोलेंगे, या कोई दोस्त बोल देगा, confused हो जाओगे. So it's important to take stands, and it's important to protect them, and it's important to check your plans. That's one part of it. Second part of it, sometimes frustration is good, and this is what I tell people. Frustration, irritation, se bhago mat. The best constructive resolutions actually come from frustrations. इतनी बढ़ जाती है जब आप बोलते हो और नहीं फ्रस्ट्रेट रहना यार, हो गई. And then the body prepares to take action because you want to get rid of frustration. अगर frustration 210 है ना, तो सारी जिंदगी उठा के चलता रहेगा, क्योंकि comfortable है, कम है, छोटी है, कोई तंग नहीं करती, आती है जाती है. But 9 और 10 है ना, तो इतना परेशान हो जाएगा that one day you get out and say, I'm going to put an end to this. It's like bullying. Somebody is bullying you in school, you take it for a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and then comes a point of time, क्या problem है? क्यों नहीं सुन रहे हो? I don't want to be treated like that. या तो आप मैम के पास चले जाओगे, या तो आप भिड़ लो. In my case, one day I took a stand from, I was short-heighted, I had grey hair, I was weak, I had health issues, and I was bullied. all through the day. And one day I got so frustrated that तंग आ गया. हर दिन सुबह उठो मन में दहशत. हर दिन सुबह उठो अब देखो आपके लिए कोई पीछे मजाक तो नहीं उड़ा रहा है. Then I got really pissed with my own self. So one day I took the sign आज जाके लड़ रहा हूँ. So he was standing in the ground. I said, "तो क्या problem है? तो वो लड़ना है लड़ ले." मेरे हाथ में पत्थर था. क्या मैं मार देता? Of course नहीं. मुझे भी नहीं पता था. But you know, I was done with my own state of mind. And then you realize the moment you stand in front of bullies, they go weak. And that's true for the mental voices also. The moment you stand in front of them, क्या करना है? But the bully also has to rise to the occasion to bully me so much that I get pissed. अब वो 2 दिन करता है और 6 दिन नहीं करता, फिर 2 दिन करता है, 6 दिन नहीं करता, तो मेरे को वो मेरी दहशत नहीं बढ़ा. So दहशत is very important. Because sometimes it will paralyze you, but sometimes it will push you to take action. So think about that. Yes. Did I answer you? Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, 3 years, 10 books, that's something commendable, right? And a few of my students also want to, they are interested to become writers. So, just want to know the methodology which you, so there, in my belief, my personal belief, there are 2 kinds of writers. Intuitive writers who just wake up and say, oh, great idea, right? And then there are writers like Salman Rushdie who sat 10 hours every day and wrote for maybe 20 years, right? So which one are you and what's your methodology for the same?
I wish I had the money to leave the job and write 10 hours a day, but I didn't, so I had to write in the night. I'm more of an intuitive writer if I go with your explanation. But if I have to give somebody an advice how to write books and how did I write, because I'm probably the best and the most strong example. My family is not an English-speaking family. Let me first assure and guarantee you that. I didn't grow up in an English-speaking community. When I was a child, there was no influence of English, and I write books in English. My mom, dad, they don't speak in English. No English influence. My school was a mix of things. So no link logically कि ये बड़ा हो गया writer बनेगा. Okay. There is no logical, psychological connection. First, I believe it happened to me, but it might not work for you. तुमको 30 साल wait करना पड़ेगा. But here is my belief. Most people think creativity, inspiration, imagination is a matter of fluke. यार आज आ रहा है, कल नहीं आ रहा है, फिर घूमने गए तो आया, idea आया, चला गया. For me, that's only 10% of the game. The 90% is discipline. If I wrote 10 books, it's not because I was sharp or I had better ideas. No. I wrote 10 books because I would every single day write. I trained myself like a workout, and that's marathon helping me to do it. जैसे आप marathon भागते हैं, हर दिन दिखते हैं. For every single day, I would spend 45 minutes writing towards 10:30 in the night. So sometimes I did 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. I've also written 15 days a week, 15 days a month at a stretch. And then I drafted a discipline that along with the job, I would do at least 3 days a week. So daily discipline, you write about 1,000 words every day, and then you realize in 4 months you can do easily 15,000 words. That's number one. Number two, I told myself, I'm not a writer, how can I write? I like reading books and I read stuff, but अंग्रेजी हमारे phone में नहीं दौड़ती. As you can see that मेरी हिंदी और उर्दू मेरी अंग्रेजी से ज़्यादा अच्छी है. But if you want me to speak in English, I went to UK, I can show up also. But I don't need it. So अब भी क्या करें? तो मैंने तो लिखा भी नहीं. नवाब ने लिखा, ना मुझे कभी किसी ने बोला लिखने के लिए. So I said, okay. I gave myself a target. I have to write the most ugliest sentence possible on mankind. उससे कौन रोकेगा? So my first book, my promise to myself was, Ankit, this is not your best book. It's the most worst writing ever available to humanity. That's your target. So I wrote it, and it became my best book. My urge to all of you is that sometimes you fall for perfection. Sometimes you write 3 lines and you see कि कोई क्या सोचेगा. Sometimes 3 lines लिख के आप किसी को सुनाओ, he doesn't approve of. Sometimes you know that there are grammatical issues and the sentence is not making sense. No. The first writing is only 60% correct. It needs to be made better. What does not exist will never get beautified, rectified, decorated. वो ज़हन में रहेगा, दिमाग में रहेगा, trouble करेगा, and it's going to die its own silent death. And when emotions and expressions die in your body a silent death, it's a very painful death. So your job is not to write, your job is to vomit. उल्टी देखिए सब, कभी सुंदर होती, खुशबूदार होती. Vomit is smelly, it stinks. वो टारगेट दे दो अपने आप को, ऐसे क्या है, उल्टी करनी है ना, चलो करते हैं, पट 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 पट. लिखते गए, and then you don't realize, but your brain forms patterns. It starts to correct sentences. It realizes, नहीं ये बहुत लंबा जा रहा है, यहाँ पे break कर देता हूँ. Psychology and research and writing would tell you that typically if human beings can write the first 200 words, the next 200 words follow. And if they can reach 400 words, then they start writing. But हमारे पहले 100 नहीं आते. So you get the discipline, you give yourself the target that my job is to vomit. It need not go out on the social media immediately. Third, if you're not writing for yourself, then you have a bigger problem to challenge. Sometimes I find people, they write for community, friends, show off, a false sense of identity. It's not long-lasting mechanism. If you speak to them also, they'll realize it just comes to us, it feels like कुछ आने वाला है, कुछ लिखने वाला है. Just एक vibe आती है, एक energy आती है, एक सुकून आता है, एक जज्बा आता है. You just have to act on that, and there is no calculation to that. So if what you want to write is not making you feel joyous, and you're writing because, then you better become an editor. At least पैसा तो कमाओगे. So my 3 tips to you: get the discipline of writing. It's a muscle memory issue. Okay. Write less, write small, write ugly, and you see yourself following the जैसे compound interest होता है. पढ़ा किसी ने compound interest? Compound interest की तरह लिखाई हो. Yes, ma'am. Your name also.
Nitya.
Nitya. Yes, Nitya.
Sir, when you asked that when you realize that to be a writer is your actual career option or you were confused?
When I realized that
To be a writer is your actual career option.
being a writer is not my actual career option. I'm a psychologist by profession. I'm a chief learning officer. I work with the organization. Okay. But when I realized I wanted to write books, it wasn't a decision to become an author. I had a thought. I had an idea. मुझे उसको justice करना था. It's like falling in love. You don't know if it's going to be your right partner or not. You don't know if you're going to stay with the person for a while or not. But you just like the person. So I liked the idea and I responded to it. I wrote the first one, and then the second one came to me. The third one came to me. The fourth book came to me. The fifth book came to me. And that's when I realized something's happening. So it's a process. You realize, now I'm going to do it seriously. I'm going to do it consciously. But it's still not my first life. And you can ask me why, because writing for me is khushi. और खुशी से पैसा नहीं कमाता. Everything which the book has made has gone to charity. It has funded education, it has funded medicine, it has funded food for people. Not even a rupee has gone into my pocket. तो monetary success को मैंने किताबों से अलग कर दिया. सर अब कौन रोकेगा मुझे? कितना बिका, नहीं बिका, कितना पैसा लगाया, कितना पैसा आया, मैंने हाथ खड़े कर दिए. जिंदगी में पहली बार मैं कुछ काम सिर्फ अपनी खुशी के लिए इसलिए लिखूंगा क्योंकि लिखने से प्यार है. The day I become a full-time author, I met Ruskin Bond and he said that Ankit नौकरी मत छोड़ो. You know Ruskin Bond? If you go to Missouri, he visits Cambridge bookstore every Friday or a Saturday, and I met him. We have a close connection. He said, Ankit नौकरी मत छोड़ो. He said, why? He said, लिख नहीं पाएगा. He said, why? He said, तेरे को लिखाई से कमाना पड़ जाएगा ना. Which means that basically if you have to earn out of your writing, you will always be under stress to write something which either sells or somebody else likes. And that's the moment you lose your own charm. So you get a signing bonus, enjoy that, but you don't write because you want to make a living out of it. So I'm not a full-time author. If I make so much money one day, which I'm hoping I will, by the time I'm 60, then I will hang my boots and I will only write. but pursue a hobby or a passion because it gives you joy. And no one's teaching us that. हर चीज में धंधा पैसा नहीं देखा जाता, हर चीज में सक्सेस फेलियर नहीं देखा जाता. कुछ चीजें आप सिर्फ इसके लिए करते हो और वो नहीं कर पाओगे ना तो स्ट्रेस आएगा. I'll close the story and after that if you have questions I'm available, but one last story. How books saved my life. 2021 was a very difficult year. 14 September is my birthday. Raat ko 11 baje my brother-in-law calls me. I said that my sister's husband is brother-in-law. So 11:30 or 11:45 or 11 he calls me, Ankit, said Hanji. So he said, and 14 September was my birthday. So I just celebrated my birthday and he said, Ankit, tere ko aana padega. So what happened? So my sister's name is Manika. I said, Manika hospital mein. So क्या हुआ? So she's on ventilator. So कैसे? So doctors are saying brain hemorrhage हुआ. 14 September. Just about getting the 15 September. रात को 1 बजे मैंने गाड़ी निकाली. I went to Gurgaon from Dwarka and I saw my sister on ventilator. खत्म था उस वक्त. In that moment I knew you was नहीं. 16 September doctor said she's brain dead. So you can do whatever you want to do, but we've done our tests, brain dead. 22nd September, we cremated her. She was gone. 45. 16-year-old son. He was like my baby. 22nd September, I felt, गई लिखाई. अब नहीं हाथ उठा. First 3 books, she had given the title. Every story she had heard. But it took 7 days. We went to Haridwar. I was coming back. And at that point of time, I was writing my 8th book. And the 9th book story came on death. Imagine मैं गाड़ी में बैठा हूँ, हरिद्वार से वापस आ रहा हूँ, and the story comes. कैसे? बिना बताए. हरिद्वार की कहानी on death. It came to me. 3rd October, I started writing my 9th. And everything which I couldn't express, feel, tell myself that it's going to be okay. The book came. If I came out of the grief and I was able to fight my sister's death, books saved your life. So write, because it will save you also. Like Zakir Khan says, this is adulting. That is not adulting. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where I sign. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
The best book, honestly, is the first one, Lost and Found at 35. But if I have to be a sales guy, I would tell you read the 4th one because it's very release only.
And we have it in the library with us. So now we move on to our next session, and we have with us, as I have already introduced you to them, so Tapa ma'am and Harshali ma'am. So, like while you'll read what they have written, it's sometimes there is this part where we should understand that what is important, and for me always women empowerment has been important. Inclusion has been important. So it's not only now when we talk about equality, it's not only 2 genders. So it's more than that. It's beyond that. But anyhow, I wrote a poem, and with that poem, we'll start with the session for ma'am. And both of you, ma'am, I'll not disturb you to come here. I'll join you there if you allow me, and I have a list of questions for you. So we can discuss it like a panel discussion if you wish to. Thank you so much, ma'am. अंधेरा हो गया है, घर से बाहर मत जाना. अब तो शादी की उम्र हो चली है, बच्चों को घर को कौन संभालेगा? तुम कैसे संभाल पाओगी इतनी ऊंची पोजीशन? तुम कर लोगी या मैं साथ आऊं? अकेले मत जा, भाई को साथ ले जा। हर रोज जिसके मर्यादाओं का घेरा था, उसके जीवन में ये कैसा अंधेरा था। वहां मत जाओ, उससे मत मिलो, पर किसी अनजान के साथ रिश्ता जोड़ा था। चूड़ी बिंदी सिंदूर को आखिर कैसे उसकी सुंदरता से जोड़ा था। घर की लक्ष्मी बताकर उसे सपनों को उसके तोड़ा था। घर ही तो दुनिया है तुम्हारी, घर ही तो दुनिया है तुम्हारी, कहकर उसे चूल्हे की ओर मोड़ा था। जिम्मेदारी क्या ही ले पाओगी कहकर सारी जिम्मेदारियों को उस पर ढोला था। हमारे इस दोहरे बर्ताव ने उसे भीतर तक झंझोड़ा था। हम तो नौकरी करने देते हैं उसे, बाहर जाने को मना कहाँ किया हमने। तरक्की का मतलब घर को भूल जाना तो नहीं, सारा दिन ऑफिस में लगे रहोगी क्या। इतनी लेट कौन सी ऑफिस मीटिंग्स, अब ये दौड़ेंगी भी। हाँ, उड़ान पर उसकी रोक लगाकर आसमां को खाली बताते हैं, ये तो उसके वक्त को भी अपनी संपत्ति बताते हैं। कि उसकी आजादी को अपनी रहमत बताई खुद ही ताली बजाते हैं। हम इसे अलाउ करते हैं कहकर उसकी सफलता पर अपनी मोहर लगाते हैं। कि उस पर कैसे इतना जोर चलाते हो तुम, इतना अधिकार कहां से लाते हो तुम। जिसकी उड़ान देख आसमां झुक जाए, उसे किस कदर रोक पाते हो तुम। उसकी शक्ति से सब शून्य है, उसके सामने कैसे नजरें उठाते हो तुम। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। कि उसकी शक्ति से सब शून्य है, उसके सामने कैसे नजर उठाते हो तुम। वो ना झुकेगी, ना रुकेगी, ना डरेगी, ना गिरेगी। वो खोलेगी पंख और समेट लेगी इस संसार को खुद में। वो उठाएगी तलवार और लड़ेगी अकेली इस रण में। वो ना कमजोर, ना कोमल, ना नाजुक, ना शिथिल। वो तुमसे शक्तिवान, जन्मेगी नया जीवन। वो बढ़ाएगी कदम नवयुग के निर्माण में। वो माँ, वो पिता, वो पुत्र, वो पुत्री, वो ना किसी से कम, ना किसी से पीछे। इसी के साथ हम स्वागत करते हैं आज के हमारे अतिथियों का। मैं मैम को वहां पर ज्वाइन करता हूँ। पीयूष प्लीज माइक्स पास कर दो।
वहीं से हुआ सेटअप वहाँ करना चाहिए, सेटअप फिर लगाना पड़ेगा। कर लूँगा मूव कर सकता हूँ। आवर कहाँ से दिया इसका?
हेलो हेलो, थैंक यू।
ठीक है ना, देखना एक बार।
So, ma'am, we have a few questions listed from Cerebrum Club. So, I guess I'll give the credits to Pranavi. Pranavi, are you here? So, she has written the questions for the panel discussions. Give a huge round of applause to our content writers, all of them. So, I'll be asking questions today. So, first of all, ma'am, both of you have been the winner. Take us through the journey of Right India. How was it, and how did it impact revolutionary?
Shall I go first? So I'm Shutapa Basu, and I'm an author, a poet, as well as an educationist and a creative writing coach. So I write, I tell stories, and I help other people tell their stories as well. So, you asked me, you know, I have always been a voracious reader ever since I was being a child. And whenever I used to read, I used to look at these, you know, favorite authors of mine, and I used to dream that I wish I could also write a book like this, which others would read. And throughout my growing years, I've been writing. And even when I became an adult and I got busy with my family and career, but I kept writing. But I never published anything. I would just keep writing. It was only in 2014 that I took the leap of faith, and I decided to give up my corporate job and take a sabbatical and sit down to write a book. But it was actually a very frightening prospect for me. I mean, how do you write 60,000 words? At least that much has to be written for a book. And then will anyone publish it? Will it be good enough to be published? And finally, the question that struck me, will anyone even pick it up to read it? But then came Write India. So this was this fantastic writing contest where every month an author would give a prompt, an established author would give a prompt, and we had to submit a story, a short story, based on that prompt. So the first month it was Amish Tripathi, I think all of you know his name, and he gave the prompt. And like everybody else in India, all over, we started writing our stories based on that prompt. But he didn't only give a prompt, he also gave a few rules. And one of them was that the story has to be based on history. It has to be a historical story. Secondly, it is to be set in a place called Paithan. Thirdly, it had to mention a king, King Aalekh, who was of Paithan, and it also had to mention Vedic women writers like Gargi. Now, I had only heard of Paithan, I had only heard of Paithani sarees. I didn't even know where the place was. And King Aalekh, nothing. So I started researching. I had to. First it was the internet, and then of course I read a few books, and I came to know that Paithan is a place in Maharashtra. And I also came to know why is it famous for weaving these sarees, these Paithani sarees. And finally I got to know that this area had been very famous in fighting the Mughals, the Marathas. So, keeping the regional and historical background, I started writing my story. But every time I had to go back to the roots and make sure that my story was not going off on a tangent. But even then, when I finished what I felt was my story, it was 3,500 words, when the requirement was for 2,500 words. So what will I do now? How will I sort of, cut out 1,000 words from my story? But I started. What I did is, I first cut the first word of the first sentence. And I looked at the sentence. Does it make sense? I realized, yes, it does. Then I started cutting the second word. And every sentence I did that, and eventually I cut off so many words and so many full sentences itself. And I had a story which was 2,500 words. Then I started reading the story. So you remember what Ankit said just now, that you have to have discipline. So I kept reading the story, kept editing it for language, for the flow of the events, for any errors that might be there. And I must have read the story at least 3 to 4 times. And then I felt, okay, it seems alright. And then what I did is I started reading the story loudly to my own self. And I realized that no, there are places where there are gaps. And there are instances where the flow is not correct. I corrected those. And then when I felt that, it was completely polished, then I submitted it. And it was to my greatest surprise that I found that I had won the first prize. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was me who had won it. But that, and you know what Amish Tripathi said about the story? He said it brought tears to his eyes. And that, made me so elated. It gave me the perfect platform. So Write India was actually the greatest thing that happened to me because it really bolstered my confidence. And it gave me the platform that I required to begin writing my book. So I will give great thanks to Vinita Nandya, who is the founder as well as the director of Write India, as well as the Times Lit Fest. And of course, when my book came out, there was a publisher who was ready to publish it, Freedomania Publishers. So again, I was very lucky to get my first book, which is this one. It's a psychological thriller called Dangle. It was published and eventually went on to be nominated as the best debut book by Anupam Kher Debut Book Award. So that has been my experience with Write India. It has really given me a platform.
Thank you, ma'am. Harshali, ma'am, to you.
First of all, good afternoon, everybody. I know you've been hearing all of us, and I hope you're having a good time. Yeah. So to answer your question, Right India came to me. I have to first say that I missed the first season completely. So, I came to know about Right India in the second season, and it was, by then I was already a published author. However, what happens is that so Right India, as Suprabha just told you, is a platform where shorts. So short stories are collected from all over India, and then 10 stories are shortlisted, out of which the first 3 stories get published in the Right India book. Now when I came to know about this, by then I knew because Suprabha was a friend, so I came to know that she won the prompt that Amish had given, and I was extremely happy for her. And obviously I wanted to know what that was like. So when the second season rolled around, I decided that I have to write. So every month there is a prompt that is given by a established author. And what the best part of Right India that I liked was that it was bringing established authors and amateurs or people who wanted to be authors, people like me who had written but also wanted to explore other genres. So it gave a very huge playing field and brought all established authors and otherwise people who wanted to write on the same platform. So I think that was the USP of Right India and still is. Have you all read Chitra Devakurne? Palace of Illusions? Yeah, so I won season 2 on her prompt. And I was thrilled because she's one of my favorite authors and I was waiting for her prompt. Now the prompt was very generic, so it had no, Amish's prompt was very specific, my prompt was very generic. So you could just take the story anywhere. And what happens, how many of you write first of all? Do you journal or do you write stories or poems? He just read a wonderful poem to us. It was beautiful and we enjoyed it. So when you start writing, there is first the idea, that a sudden idea will strike you, especially if you read a prompt. Now when a prompt is very specific, you are very focused on what the prompt has told you. आपके पास एक नींव होती है to build your idea on. And when the prompt is generic, you are slightly, taken aback. Where do I take it? Because so many thousands of people are writing, so you want your story to stand out. You want it to be unique and simple, so that everybody can read it, anybody can read it. Now, simple is very, very complicated, I feel. एक चीज को complicate करना बहुत आसान है, but किसी चीज को simple बनाना, simple language में लिखना, बोलना is more difficult, I feel. So, when the idea struck me, I started building on it, and then of course the whole story got made. There was editing, there was editing again and again, as Suttapa explained, so I don't, for brevity's sake, I don't want to keep repeating the same thing. But the best part was that you can explore other genres. Normally when I write on women issues. But when I wrote this story, I wanted to create a very dark woman. It was based on relationships, the story, that one, but it was also about how people can manipulate their relationships to suit themselves and then justify it. We all do that in our own relationships. We know people who do it to us. But how do I bring about that texture where a mother can do that to their own children? So that was the story that won in the second season. In the third season, my story was selected in the first 10 for Amitav Ghosh. Any of you read Amitav Ghosh? Yeah, so my story in the third season was selected there. Now what it did for me was, thank you so much. What it did for me was that it told me, it validated what I was already doing, because such a celebrated, such prolific writers were picking up your work out of thousands of stories. One was Chitra Devakurne, on which I won season 2, and one was Amitav Ghosh. Now all these authors are celebrated world over. And so when those authors read your work and say, okay, it matters, or your words have impacted them, it kind of gives a boost to your confidence. People come to know you. So these are the things which I felt that Write India was doing for people like us. Now I am actually a judge. I work in the judiciary in the Consumer Forum. So my writing there is very different. It's all fact-based. I write based on the facts that come before me. But writing for Write India it completely opened a new door, because it was a very different kind of writing. One, it was creative, it was imaginative, and both the writings that I do for my for writing judgments and for creative, they kind of hit against each other. So when I get too tired and kind of exhausted from dealing with facts, dealing with angst, dealing with pain and suffering that I see everywhere, I kind of shift to my creative writing. So both of those writings are they kind of play off each other, if I can use that term. So that is what, and I was extremely, because it was a very, Write India was a very unique concept. Nobody had done it till now. So Vinita Nangria had actually brought in this concept, and it was unique and it was new and it was connecting people world over. I mean, we were getting congratulations messages, and we were getting, meeting people, networking with people who were, somewhere sitting somewhere else. And they had read your story and they came back to you and said, oh, we loved it and everything. So it was a very smoothly, seamlessly done event. And then we, of course, came out with the book. This is the book of season 2. So this was the book that came out of Write India winners, all the 3 winners, first, second and third, for all the prompts. So, and it contains beautiful work. It contains authors who are from all walks of life. There is, there are authors who have just started, there are young children, there are people who have who had never written before, but wrote for this and won. So I think Write India has done an excellent job of bringing people on the same platform.
I think we got to know that there was a person who was 85 years old,
yes,
and a child of 8 years old had submitted. Of course, the child of 8 years, was not the age, because I think the cut-off age was something like 14 or 15 years, but there was a child of 8 years who had submitted.
So now that Write India is planning its season 4, I think all of you should think about, submitting your stories as well and keep track of that.
Both of you said, like Sudhav ma'am said, she quit her job to start writing, and Harshali ma'am also said that it's a safe space. Like after the tough day at work, all of us, like all the writers here, we always find the best time is to sit and write something and then read it probably to your friends or your dear ones. So while writing, you have both written in various formats. So which one, prose or poetry or any other format, which format according to you helps best express your views or opinions or ideas or emotions?
I think both the formats, they express your emotions and ideas and views, your voice basically. But maybe poetry is more emotional, while you have to have more logic when you're writing a story. Especially I have been writing also, historical, these are all my historical novels. So when I write history, I need to do a lot of research. And after I do the research and I discover all the facts, I can't compromise on the facts. So my stories are always woven between the facts. The facts are not disturbed in any way, but I have a story which is going between the facts. So there you have to use logic. You have to see that the flow is logical. Otherwise, anybody who's reading it is not able to, finds loose ends, then will not be satisfied or content with the writing. So maybe emotionally, poetry, more logic and reason goes into the prose or the stories of fiction that I write.
So with this, we also get to know that fiction is not always, it does not mislead you. So authors take a lot of time to put it in the logic, not disturbing the facts. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Harshali, ma'am.
It's for sure poetry for me. I mean, I think the first, even when I have an idea for a book, I have to put down 4 or 5 lines which encapsulate that idea for me. And hence, I write a lot of poetry, I read a lot of poetry, and not only English, I read a lot of vernacular, Hindi, Urdu. Because I feel I need to kind of, bring that idea on paper, and from there the story flows. We were just talking a little while back about being what kind of writer you are. So when I wrote my first book, I thought I'm going to write about relationships, about love, about those kind of things. But I don't know how. I wrote about domestic violence, I wrote about marital rape, I wrote about other issues that women face, and mature love. So that was my first book. Just to give you a little bit of context, I've written the Haveli series. It's a series of 9 books, out of which 3 are out. This happens to be the 3rd book, which got recently launched. Its cover was longlisted for the Oxford Booker Prize, the book prize that Oxford bookstore prize. And all the 3 books are about, so there's a huge Sharma family which lives in a Haveli, hence Haveli series. And so the first book that I wrote, as I was telling you right now, is about a mature love, about domestic violence, about marital rape, etc., which is the story of the first daughter called Aruna. The second book that I wrote is called Anatomy of Choice, which is about the second daughter, Bhavya, where she takes a slightly different decision on having a threesome, and whether as an Indian woman who's been born and brought up in a conservative house, is she able to deal with the consequences of taking that decision with her partner? So she's in a live-in relationship, etc. So those contemporary kind of decisions have been made. This book is a mystery. It's a thriller and a mystery where the 3rd daughter, Charu, she is she's in an SIT, and though she's blind, she's solving cases because of the empathy or the sensitivity she has, which can be called intuition, etc. So as I said, that for all the 3 books, I completely concur with Sutapa that the research has to be very strong. You cannot start a book on just an idea. You can write poetry on an idea, but for a book you need to back it up with research, so that when the reader reads it, they should not say, ki ye kaise hua? How did this happen? So for that you need to back it up with research. And so, though I like writing long form due to paucity of time, sometimes relationships, and because we have very full lives and a lot on our plates as women, I tend to gravitate more towards poetry, because that now with smartphones I can write on my phone. So if something strikes me, if there's a question I want to explore, if there's a feeling I want to explore, it's very easy for me to pick up my phone and write those 4 lines, in whichever language. So poetry would certainly be my go-to at any time.
Sure, cannot agree more to that. So Shantanu is there. He is our joint secretary for Cerebrum. Both of us became friends through Cerebrum, but later on we came to know that we had more common interests, and that was poetry. So this is an intent. So obviously, whenever he writes something and he tells it to me, that automatically comes that okay, let's sit and hear. So if no one else, we try to involve with each other, sit together and write a poem, or at least hear to each other. So that's how poetry is very close to our hearts also. I guess we have a lot of poets here, all of them from Cerebrum. Ayushi there, Mallika is there, Pranavi is there, all of them, they have been writing. And while we were talking about Aalekh since the very beginning, all the authors have come from various genres, but I guess both of you have talked about mythology, historical fiction, be it ma'am's stories about kings or queens, or the Shakti-centric poems by Harshali ma'am. they touch realms of intrigue. So, what about these genres personally draws you to explore them?
Okay, so I think the first thing that drew me to writing historical fiction or historical novels and thrillers, the other book is thrillers, is the fact that I like reading them. I love reading historical novels and I love reading thrillers. So that is what actually drew me to these two genres. But then, having said that, I have about 3 historical fiction, out of which this one, which is Nader Shah, The Curse of Nader Shah, has also won the Best Fiction Award at Arthur Awards 2020. But then I went on to write a thriller called The Cursed Inheritance. And the latest book that I have is a non-fiction, which is about the history of India, called The Birth of My Nation. So how did India get integrated after independence? That is what this book is about. So what I want to say is that while, yes, my go-to...
This mic has some issue. Can we just look at it?
So while my go-to genres, my favorite ones are historical novels and thrillers, but I believe that when you write in other genres which you are not so used to, you start thinking about how to write within those parameters, because every genre has a parameter within which you have to write. And that thinking or the skill that you have, you start exploring and exploiting becomes better. So my craft of writing, I think, gets more refined when I write in those genres which I have not written before or have not read so much. So right now, my aspiration is to write as in many genres as possible. So I have been writing children's fiction. I have actually translated a very iconic heritage children's fiction. If there are any Bengalis here, they will recognize the name immediately. It's called ঠাকুমার ঝুলি, which has been translated into an English book called Princesses, Monsters and Magical Creatures. So I went into translation and then I have come and written this non-fiction, which is also for children. At the same time, I have been publishing also textbooks. So I have got 3 English textbook series for schools, which are already being used in schools all over India. So I try to explore as many genres as possible.
As I was saying earlier, that when I started writing, I thought I'm only going to write on relationships, I'm only going to write on love, and because that is what, as we were just talking about, that is what you read. So if you read a particular genre, you tend to gravitate. So people who write or read, do you have a particular genre that you go into a bookshop or go on Amazon and look for that? Right? So it's the same with us, that when we write what we know the best. Now as a woman, when I started writing, I wanted to write on, as I was saying, relationships. But then what happened was when COVID struck, our publisher had, our books have been published, both mine and Sutapa's, have been published by Readomania. Now our publisher, we were all sitting at home, books were not coming out. So what to do? How to keep yourself working? Because there was so much happening around you, there was so much pain and suffering that so we were writing a lot of poetry. So there were poetry books which were coming out online, etc. But then what happened was that our publisher got this brilliant idea, Readomania, Dipankar Mukherjee. He said, let's do an online anthology of books of different genres. So we had mythology, we had romance, we had erotica, we had, I think, historical fiction, yeah, we had romance, so we had everything. And the best part was, during that time, while we were struggling so much with our mental health issues, with the depression that was happening, all of us were submitting stories, thinking on stories, and we had just 1 month. So every month a book would come out. And we had 1 month to write on a genre that we had never written before. So I had never written a thriller, I had never written a mystery, erotica. I had never written, I had not even thought that I would write this. But because we were at home, we were working from home, we thought we had that time, let's explore. So I think none of us should say that this is my limit. As soon as you draw the boundary for yourself, you are limiting yourself. आप अपने आप को रोक रहे हो to try out something that you might be good at. So my first two books were on relationships, though they had a different take on them. But my third book then, after that, I realized I like mystery, I like thriller, and I can write it. So it was from the short story that I wrote and submitted and it got selected that I realized that I can do this and I can write in long form. So because it's difficult to hold on to that story for 300 pages, you are living with the characters, etc. So I think exploring yourself happens when you step out of your comfort zone. We are so comfortable doing a particular thing that to tell yourself that thoda sa uncomfortable hoga, thoda aur research karna padega, you have to read more on the genre you are now going to submit in. We kind of say, oh, this is safe, let us do this. And with age, it happens a little more. You are young people, young adults who can take risks. But when you come, you grow older, you feel, let me do what I'm comfortable in. Isn't that what we even now say? I hear a lot of youngsters say, let me do what I'm comfortable in. Don't tell me to step out of my comfort zone. But unless you step out of your comfort zone, you are never going to discover a new facet about yourself. So that is what my discovery was, that when I made myself uncomfortable, I was able to discover a new facet of my own self. So that is what I think.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, apart from the commonalities in the genre, well-fledged female characters is another literary element in both of your nature of work. So as women yourselves, are you conscious in your portrayal of women when you author a particular literary piece?
I think the best answer to this question is this book, Padmavati. I think you all are familiar with the movie Padmavat.
Yeah.
And this book came out 2 weeks before that. And all I can say is a lot of people went to see the movie, came back and then they read the book. And they told me that when we went to see the movie, we were not satisfied with the woman Padmavati in the movie. So when we came and read your book, we recognized her and we acknowledged her. And for me, that was the greatest, appreciation that my book could have got. But to answer your question, even though I have written about Genghis Khan and I have written about Nadesha, there is always a strong woman in both those books, in the lives of both these conquerors. They were historically known as conquerors. Yet, there was always a woman who inspired them, who kept them going, who gave them strength. And that woman always figures in my books.
Thank you, ma'am. Harshali, ma'am.
So I can only say that I was just talking about my second book, Anatomy of Choice, and my women are, I think, at the end of the spectrum from Padmavati, especially Bhavya, who takes this decision to have a live-in relationship, to get into a threesome, and then decide on whether she was capable of handling the consequences. Now, when I was writing this book, very frankly, I'll tell you, and I'll share this with you today, I wrote the whole story and I shelved it. Because it was dealing with taboo subjects, it was dealing with something that it was not acceptable. By then I had already written my first book, which was well received. I had won Right India. So when I had written my second book, I actually took a step back. I said, I don't think I should bring this out into the public, because you have to maintain a certain kind of, do you want to answer those questions that the audience will ask you, or people will ask you that why have you written about this, etc. And I did face that, by the way. So when I wrote this book, I was conscious of the fact that people are going to comment on it. And then I wrote a completely different manuscript with the same characters, because it's a series. So the same characters had a completely different story, which was a different story altogether. And I submitted both of them to the publisher. The publisher said that, this is the book you should go with. In fact, actually it was my husband who said that the first book, Bhavya's story that I had written, that is your voice. You are more, that is the story that you need to put out, because then I realized that I was writing for myself. Whether it was received well or not, I have to bring out a story that I am confident in. And hence, that was the story that got finally published, because whatever you write with your whole self, believing in that concept, that is the best work that you do. So we were earlier, Ankit said something about writing for yourself. I would only propagate it and reiterate it again and again, that when you are writing, write because that makes sense to you. That is your question, that is your quest. If you write for people, whether it is acceptable, not acceptable, वो बाद में देखा जाएगा, So that was the kind of women I wanted, who were strong enough to stand up on their own 2 feet, who were not dependent, who were making mistakes, who were falling, like all of us do. And but the courage of getting up is what the strength lies in, where the strength lies in. So that is the kind of women that I want to promote, because see, I feel now we have opened the door to places. Now we have to hold it open for younger women to stand up and cross that threshold, right? Because my profession is the male bastion. It's still a place where you have to prove yourself again and again and again. It is a place which is known because the law is from the eyes of a man. When it was formed, it was from a male perspective that law was formed. It was not from the female perspective. So we are working in a place, or I am working in a place every day where women have to project a certain image. You have to prove yourself on an everyday basis that you are better at your work, where I can see my male counterparts, slacking off at times and saying, but I cannot. Because all the eyes of the young women, of the young advocates who are standing across the dais from me are looking at me for the fact that, how is she doing? And very frankly, I feel all of us are role models for people for the generation who's coming behind you. So for a 9th standard young girl, she's looking at a college-going post-graduation girl who's behaving in the corridors. She's going to emulate you. So you are a role model, whether you want to be or not. So it's better to be careful that way. So yes, I think we have a responsibility of promoting, projecting women as strong who are vulnerable. Because we are not gods, we are not goddesses. Please don't put us on a pedestal. But the fact is that to be able to write a story where strength is your core, where core strength, moral compass is facing north, so that someone who's reading it says that yes, I relate with this problem, but how do I solve it? What do I do? Do I have the strength to stand up and take that decision, which may be the hard path? So that is the kind of women I want to write about.
Thank you, ma'am. This session has been doing great, but we have a development time. These students, they need to leave. So I would want to close the session, but before that, I would want to ask you, what is your advice to the young writers of India specifically? Because we have a lot of questions in our minds. There are a lot of things the youth is dealing with, considering mental stress, anxiety, or maybe not able to express themselves, or maybe not having someone to hear them. So what message would you like to give them?
So as an author, I think a lot of you must be thinking, what are you talking about writing when there is so much audiovisual, digital content available at a click? But remember one thing, that all that digital audiovisual content has been created by somebody, and that somebody has had to write it down. So writing is the basis of all content, whether it is a video, an animation, a film, or an e-book. But the difference between watching an audiovisual content and reading a book is this, or writing a book is this, that every audiovisual content is made from the perspective of the creator, who feeds it to the viewer. So there is no scope for any other perspective. But when you are writing or when you're reading, you are able to introspect, you are able to reflect. And somebody else, when it reads it, can read between the lines, can form their own interpretation and can relate it to their lives. That is the reason today, even today, prolifically writers are writing and books are getting sold. because books are your safe space. They calm you, they give you serenity, they calm the chaos around you and the chaos inside you. And they give you that space to reflect, to meditate, and inspire you to go on, even though there are setbacks. And it's always done that for me.
So my message for you today is, adding to what Sutapa said was, I would say start with reading. You know, writing is secondary, you have to read. And I know in today's world, as we were just talking, that the digital age, it's very easy to say I don't have so much time. But trust me, this is portable magic. Okay, this you can take anywhere. You can get lost in it if you want to, and you can find yourself if you want to. So books are your best friends. No offense to the best friends sitting here together, but books are your best friends. And if nothing else, there are times when I'm sitting, I'm quickly grabbing my breakfast, and मेरे को कुछ पढ़ने के लिए नहीं मिलता है, so I will read the instructions on whatever is in front of me, because it gives you that space to fine-tune yourself. Your mind space becomes attuned to reading the fine print. So do that. It will spill over into your other parts of your life. If you are not a reader, a lot of people have heard, oh, I would love to read your book, but I'm not a reader. I said, you are a reader. It's just that probably the book that you are picking up is not to your taste, or it is not something that you would like to read. So, and another thing, the second thing I'd like to tell you is that just like a lot of people, I used to gravitate towards a particular genre, and how did I break that was when I joined book clubs. There was a time when I joined a couple of book clubs, and I had to read a book to be able to talk about it in the next book club. And truly, I would not have picked up those books had I not been part of it. So join a community, find a support group, as you were very rightly saying that you have someone you can bounce your ideas off, and it will give you that place which is safe, which is non-judgmental, that you can talk about your work, your thoughts to somebody else. So friends, books, portable magic.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It has been a great session talking to you. I wish we had more time and we could discuss about more things. But these students have to leave. I would request Dr. Sanjay Kataria, University Librarian and Professor, to please felicitate Harshali ma'am and Sutapa ma'am. Team, please.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
क्या दिखाना है क्या दिखाना है लाइव इधर हो रहा फोटो उधर चल हो रहा है क्या यार सर को बोलो ना सर को बोलो for your friends, many years and life.
कंबाइन करके
प्राइस में अमेज़न का वाउचर
मैं ले लूँगा.
I would now like to request Dr. Sanjay Kataria to felicitate the teachers who have brought in their students to Bennett University today. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
फोटो चाहिए होगी मैं मार्क्स बताऊँ
Students, please settle down, maintain the decorum of the room. Please.
स्टॉप कर दो ना, खत्म हो गया.
कहाँ चार का में ट्यूशन ना हो यार, बोर
पक्का ना? श्योर ना? अब तो खाना खाने जा रहे हैं. बैठो 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 बैठो.